Welcome to the Motherhood Alliance podcast, the podcast dedicated to empowering moms and families on their health and wellness journey. I'm Brittany Suttner.
And I'm Andrea Rinkus. Together, we're here to explore holistic approaches that go beyond conventional medicine.
Each week, we dive into topics that matter most to you. Everything from nutrition and mental health to alternative therapies and natural living.
And whether you're a new mom navigating the early stages of parenthood or a seasoned pro looking for new ways to support your family's well-being, you're in the right place.
Even better, all of our guests are local small business owners who you can actually talk to and work with. You can learn more about today's guest and connect with hundreds of other health and wellness professionals through our informative and easy-to-use directory at motherhoodalliance.com.
Before we get started, keep in mind that this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not a substitute for personal healthcare advice. Please consult your healthcare provider before making any changes based on the podcast content.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. Are you ready to help your family thrive? Let's get started. Hi, we are Britt and Drea from motherhoodalliance.com, and we are excited to welcome you to a 4-episode series with Evey Andersen, a board-certified family nurse practitioner, certified sports nutritionist, homeopath, anti-aging expert, and overall functional and integrative medicine powerhouse. Through her clinic, Green Medicine of Wisconsin, which is based out of Oshkosh, Wisconsin, Evey helps patients navigate complex chronic conditions by blending functional medicine, nutrition, circadian biology, and homeopathy. Her clinic has a special interest in Lyme disease, or Lyme complex, as she calls it, and since this is a hot topic during the springtime in Wisconsin, we're excited to fill 2 of our 4 episodes with some incredibly empowering discussions around Lyme symptoms, treatment, and prevention, all through a functional medicine lens. Our final 2 episodes together are filled with topics that Evey has extensive professional and personal experience with, including circadian biology and how different types of light, like sunlight, red or blue light, impacts us and our kids, as well as how homeopathy can be a natural way to support first aid needs and short or long-term disease. In her personal life, Evey enjoys yoga, spending time in the sauna, and enjoying nature with her husband, daughter, and their 2 sweet dogs. We can't wait for you to meet Evey, so let's jump in. Hey everyone, welcome back to our 4th and final episode with Evey Andersen here from Green Medicine of Wisconsin. Welcome back.
Thank you.
We are going to be discussing a whole new topic today, but we have touched on it in our other episodes. We're going to be talking about homeopathy. And if you did not listen to our first 3 episodes, make sure you go back and do that because episodes 1 and 2 were about Lyme disease. And I think in the springtime, especially, everybody is thinking about this. She had so many incredible pieces of data and prevention tips and things like that in those episodes. In our last one, that was an extremely informational episode all about light and how it's affecting our body in so many ways and how it actually works. But here in this one, we're diving into homeopathy. So you have worked in the traditional medical system. You have worked in functional medicine. Your clinic specializes in Lyme, but also helps with hormone and all this other stuff. How did you get into homeopathy?
Well, it's a long and short story. So going back to when I was pregnant, I had bought a childbirth homeopathic kit because I was like, I do home births. I won't, I worked in hospitals. They're not my place for, it's not my place for me.
Sure.
In that stage. But, so I bought this homeopathic childbirth kit and did not use it. I just let it sit in my cabinet and I was like, I just forgot about it. I had an administrative assistant that I worked with. She did all of our ordering at the office and she literally like probably the first couple of weeks I was with Green Medicine was like, you need this Materia Medica, which is, how you look up homeopathic remedies and symptoms and how you choose what you do. And so she's like, I'm going to find you this one. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I got it. I'm like, this is Greek. I have no idea how to read it.
Sure.
I've had it for almost 6 years, this giant book. But when I was, nursing my daughter, as you sometimes happen, I was feeling like I was getting mastitis and I was doing all the over-the-counter cabbage leaves, compression, pumping, And it's like, oh yeah, I have this kit in my cabinet. I'm going to try it. So I was thinking, if I don't do this, I'm going to have to call Dr. Green and get antibiotics and I just don't want to do that. And I ended up taking 2 doses of remedy, 20 minutes apart, and it was gone.
What?
Like almost
That's
immediately.
amazing.
And I was like, this is wild. Because of course, when you're trained in traditional medicine, like this idea of homeopathics, people have this thought that it's herbal, et cetera. And it's not. It's an energy-based system of medicine. And that really got me down this idea of this could be something huge or really, really important. So I wasn't really sure how to go about learning. I mean, I was dabbling with it with treatment in patients over the past few years. And then I came across this person on Instagram, and I started following her, and she of course started a school. So I was like, okay, I'll do this class. So I started. It's based in Australia. But the reason that I got into it is because they are generally thought of as a very gentle system of medicine. They can be very powerful, but gentle at the same time. With Lyme, the reason I suppose I brought it into the office is because a lot of our patients do have trauma emotionally from either gaslit by the system, or just their general symptoms are a bother to the point where they feel very upset. And I don't know how to go back and fix that with supplements and medications. Like, I can't fix something that happened to somebody when they were 5 with what I typically had in my arsenal of offerings. So I was like, I got to figure out how to do this. And when I realized that the homeopathics have the potential to kind of reach in the past and fix those issues, I was like, this is something I need to know. So I am in the middle of a 2-year course right now. I did a 6-month course already. And so now I'm in a 2-year program. So yeah.
So
Just
fascinating.
amazing. You got all sorts of stuff. This is so cool.
It's
I
just
love
like,
it.
you know, like patients tell you how they want to be treated. And as far as like how I want to treat myself, that's what I want to offer. And of course, like I have patients that absolutely don't want to do homeopathy, and I respect that as well. But if we can blend it, I think it's huge. I think it's
it's amazing that you're a practitioner too that blends all of these different things. Like, you're not just set on one way. And I really admire that about you. I think that's wonderful. Yeah.
So how is this actually consumed?
Yeah. So there's a lot of different ways that you can purchase these things, or homeopathic remedies, these things. The most common thing you'll see is the pilules that are going to be through some traditional commercial available products in the U.S. So usually they're under the tongue. Most of those, you don't want to touch them on your skin. You'll inactivate them. So you put them in the cap and then you put them under your tongue, and that's a dose.
And those are like little balls, essentially.
Yeah, they're sucrose tablets. Yep. So they're like sugar pills, and they'll just dissolve. If kids chew them, it's not an issue. You can chew them, but it's just that it's coated with this energetic-based liquid. So, well, we have our own homeopathic kits, and they're actually liquid, because I find that with dosing for kiddos, you can get way more out of 15 ml vial by using 2 drops and dispersing it in liquid than you can in pilules. So it's just a little more, I don't know. I think it's a little bit more cost effective. It's a little bit easier. You can put it in their glass water bottle or their plastic cup. Don't use metal, because that could change some of the frequencies. But yeah, I work like, I don't, as my least favorite thing is public speaking. So I'm using Gelsimium right now, which is something that you use as a remedy for those types of anxieties or worries, just talking in public.
It is amazing when you start delving into the homeopathy too, because like you're saying, it's not just like fixing an ailment or like a stomach ache or whatever. There's so much more to it. Like you're just saying, anxiety or specific things.
Yeah. So there are different ways to utilize this. You can use it as an acute, or you can use it as something more long-term and constitutional. But the quote that I want to read is kind of encompasses this idea. It says, the highest form of homeopathy is first aid prescribing. Almost every chronic disease, if you take it back, where did it start? It started as a shock with a grief and accident, a medical procedure that went wrong. It started with a first aid situation that, if it had been properly treated in that moment, had somebody had a home remedy kit that they knew what to do with it, the whole chain of health problems possibly would have never happened. So that's from Ian Watson, who is a homeopath. But that's just where, when I was looking at this, like, yes, it's an undertaking to make these and have them available, but it's such a passion project for me, because as a parent, you like, if something comes up, it's going to be Friday night at midnight.
Oh,
like, what do I do? So
Yep.
It's not ever to say, do not go and seek evaluation. Of course, you're a parent, use your best judgment for yourself or your family. But if you want, like, if it's nothing serious that you can tell, or a cough, and you just like, okay, you need to go back to sleep, there's remedies that you could certainly try. So the homeopathic system of medicine really is derived from homeo, meaning similar, and pathos meaning suffering. So what we're doing with homeopathy is trying to match the remedy, what that would provoke as far as symptoms to what your person that you're treating or going to treat yourself is experiencing. So Western medicine is based in this anti. So homeopathy is complete opposite of that. So when you think about antihypertensives, antibiotics, antifungals, antivirals, it's trying to shut down this mechanism, whereas homeopathy is this energetic system. It's harnessing the frequency of these substances to actually stimulate your body's own ability to fix itself, which I just find awesome.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So it's really this idea of like cures like. So we're not trying to shut anything down. That's essentially homeopathy. That's like, it's just so fun.
What are the remedies made out of?
Yeah. So they're plants, minerals. You can use some pathogenic substances, and those are a completely different animal, not in the first aid prescribing form. But yeah, you can use any substance that's crude technically, dilute it down into water, succuss it, and you do that possibly hundreds of times, if not more. And then that dilution is what you use to make the remedy. So it's an energetic imprint. There's nothing typically crude substance left remaining in any of them.
So you have created these first aid kits for families.
Yeah.
So typically when someone thinks first aid, they think cut,
Yeah.
bruise, kid fell down, bumped their head, or maybe colds, flus, things like that.
All
so
of the
is that
above.
what the kit is kind of for?
So we have a booklet that comes with the kits that you can read, kind of a little bit about what we talked about, the background in homeopathy, but tells you how to take a dose. And then what you do is you look through different conditions. Like this is accidents, injuries, and bruises, and it lists aconite, arnica, hypericum, and ledum. So you would read through these and say what fits the situation at this moment the best. And that can change over time. So you try one. If it doesn't work within, 3 or 4 doses, switch. Or you could do 2 in 1 liquid. You can play around. There's really no wrong way to use it.
Like if you took arnica and it was like, oh, this isn't working, it's not going to hurt the person for taking something that's not what they're supposed to take.
Typically not. No, I've not had anybody call and say this made things worse.
Right.
And that's where homeopathy, I think, is really, really comfortable and accessible and powerful in that way. I'm not sure if we got into dosing. So these remedies are what we call Fibonacci homochords. So they're based on this Fibonacci, this golden numerical sequence. So it's actually 10 remedy doses, so 10 free potencies, so to speak, in one. So you're not having to choose, do I give a 6, a 20, a 30, a 200? They're all anywhere, but I think from 3C to 233. So your body, what you're trying to do when you're treating something, say a cough, your body is trying to select that frequency that's just above where your body is. So just slightly stronger to stimulate that healing response. So it takes kind of the guesswork out of it. I know there's traditional, my school is based in Australia. They're a lot more liberal and aggressive, so to speak, but gentle in how they dose with homeopathics. Whereas traditional constitutional treatment would be like, you try 1 dose of one thing one time or once a week, and we'll see how that goes. But in a first aid scenario, I've never, ever experienced yet somebody having a crisis because they've tried a remedy with 10 different potencies. And that's a debatable topic as well, the thought of potency, because high or low doesn't necessarily mean anything. It's really where you're resonating at with that frequency. Like everything in the world has a frequency that it resonates on. Water does. You do, I do. So what you're trying to do is match that distorted energy with something slightly stronger to fix that.
So like I know with the pellets, I know like there might be a 30C or 200C, which is what you were kind of talking about. With the liquid, it's consistent as far as dosage.
Yeah. So it's 10 different potencies all combined in one.
And you're saying like if you're treating a cough or something like that for your kid, you would decide based on their frequency on like how much to give them, or how do you figure that out?
So you would go to the cough.
Yeah.
If people purchase it, there's a downloadable one that you can put right on your phone and search. Okay. So it's not like you have to flip through. But you would just go to coughs and say it fit aconite, which is a dry, sudden onset, worse exposure to dry, cold wind around midnight. So you would take the aconite out, unscrew the top, since it's a dropper bottle. It's organic brandy and water. and you put it in a water bottle, like 2 drops, and you shake it because that disperses the medicine throughout the whole, it potentizes, medicates that entire liquid.
Okay.
And then each sip is a dose.
Okay. So, all right. And then, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's a little bit simpler, I think. And then, if it doesn't work, okay, well, you wasted 2 drops versus 15 pellets or.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So like you're taking every dose or every sip and then you're seeing how it's going from there.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
And kids' responses, even adults too, it's not always like a miraculous, like with the mastitis issue that I had.
Sure.
I did try it again. Because my husband's a pharmacist. He's like, that's just coincidental. And I was like, okay, well, it happened like a month later and I took a dose in the middle of the night and it was completely gone. Like within a few minutes. I was like, this is wild.
What does he have to say about all this?
He's actually was first into like the functional integrative space before I was, which is crazy. But he loves it. He
fully support, like he obviously gets it from a pharmacist. Yeah, that's really cool that you can kind of have that conversation.
Yeah, so
too.
he does a lot of like medication reviews with patients and tries to see what nutrients might be depleted and support them. But he's totally.
That's great.
Yeah, he humors me. No, he he supports, very supportive.
Well, I think the way you explained that was very helpful when it comes to the first aid side. But in your clinic itself, you're seeing people that have more chronic conditions or chronic symptoms that have been happening for a long time. And so how does this get used in a long-term fashion? Is this something that ends up turning into a supplement like a vitamin for somebody? Or how does this work?
Great question. So when I initially started the homeopathics, I used 2 different products that were blends. Of different remedies, not just different potencies, but a lot of different possible, like you take like 10 of these and put them in one, to try to prime the system for like lymphatic drainage, kidney, liver support, just really detox, because that sometimes if that's not primed, everything else as far as treatment is just not going to be very helpful, or we're going to not get that response. So that's where I started. Now, as far as what we're doing in a long-term versus an acute sense, in my experience, the longest I've heard somebody being on one remedy for a constitutional treatment, and that does require a consult with a homeopath, either myself or somebody else that has experience, is, I want to say like 3 years, but they're seeing continued improvement. So that's why that person is remaining. But typically, we're looking at usually under a year if we're doing that kind of treatment, sometimes even shorter. It really just depends. Like the acute dosing that we're doing, you want to dose until you feel like there's improvement. And once that's a question I get, when do I know if I'm done?
Right.
It's when you're feeling like, oh, I don't need this anymore. That's usually a good indication that you don't need to take it.
Or if your symptoms change.
Exactly.
Then you need to change the type.
Yep. So you would change the homeopathic remedy, or, if you feel like there's improvement, just sail on. You don't need to. Or if you fall asleep and you wake up fine, that's even better.
Yeah. My son had a cough the other day, and we have a kit too, but it's the pellets. And I have this big old book that I looked through, and I found what I thought that might work for him. I dosed him a couple of times, and I looked in there too, and it did say like, you don't have to keep waking him up. If it's working, it's working.
If he's sleeping, leave it alone. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
And it's just different thinking from what you see with traditional.
And then you just let their body naturally deal with it. My kiddo and I both had food poisoning in October.
Oh no!
And so I got this call, and I went home and I dosed her with a remedy. She was throwing up every 20 minutes, like just awful. She fell asleep on the couch and woke up and never threw up again and wanted to eat. I was like, this is awesome. So.
And then it was your turn.
Yeah. Well, I was pretty much done by that point.
Oh, okay.
I just still didn't feel great. But it was awesome. Like that's how. And you don't want to suppress that from coming out, but if we can alleviate it to where they feel better, they fall asleep and they're good. Awesome. That's exactly what you want.
I think that this was a really good introduction to homeopathy. Do you feel that people should be working with someone like yourself? Because the internet's huge and wide. Amazon is extremely deep in pages of if you went on there and said homeopathic remedies, and there's going to be
lots
a million different name brands and quality levels and all this stuff. So for somebody who's just starting out in this world, do you recommend that they work with somebody, or is there a different resource you can point them to? And when I ask this question, I'm asking more about the short-term, acute first aid type situations, and not the chronic ones, because I know earlier you said it's important to work with someone like you. I
honestly have a lot less concern of people playing around with homeopathics than just about anything else. So if they want to play around with it, by all means, there, of course, is going to be concern buying anything on Amazon supplement wise. Like that's a little scary to me, but with the quality, I mean, it's an energetic. So I don't know how much I can say anything is going to be disrupted in that sense. There are studies saying that even through airport scanners and such things, the remedies maintain their frequency. So that's cool because that wasn't thought to be the case. As far as other resources, I mean, if people do purchase the kits, it comes with a 30-minute webinar, and we will go through kind of a longer version of what we talked about here, exactly like common questions, what people kind of have come up with when we've done this. We do offer smaller kits that are just the blends, one that is focused actually for ticks and insects in the spring, one for mood, and then one that's an ABC, aconite, belladonna, chamomilla, which is like the 3 remedies, especially with kiddos, that you use the most.
Okay.
So those are awesome.
I love that you have that so much support. I mean, I think that's just worth even like investing in, just because then you get the background knowledge, you have an understanding, and
I know people
move forward.
Yeah, people are like, well, can I just play around with something? I'm like, absolutely. Like, go play around. But having like a full disposal kit and then looking through or learning, this is paper you can write on. So if you have like a little note you want to jot down, like, oh, this worked well for, I heard this worked great, add it in there, write your own notes. That's great.
And I do want to mention for our listeners that Evey is offering 10% off a green medicine homeopathic first aid kit. And that offer is valid through August 19th, I believe is what you gave us. So to take advantage of that, do they just need to contact you and mention the podcast?
Yes. So if they went to our store password, like anybody can shop there, but for certain professional products, we have to have a password. It's green 1259. So that's, if you go to our website, click on the store, you just enter green 1259, it'll let you in. And then from there, on the side, I believe the homeopathics are under Green Medicine of Wisconsin, and you can click in there and just kind of cruise around, which is fun. So
Perfect.
Yeah, I think there is a code. I think it was MHA, Motherhood Alliance 2025.
Okay. We will make sure that we have that, and then we'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah.
So perfect. This was so great. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us and all of these different areas. We talked about Lyme, we talked about circadian biology, we talked about homeopathy. Can you also just give us a quick run through of what your clinic helps people with?
Golly. So obviously primarily Lyme. We do have a subset of patients that either graduate after their treatment and want to maintain our relationship, either just in case they get bit again, they want that relationship still established, which is perfectly fine. We also have wellness patients that establish just, hey, I don't necessarily want to do X, Y, or Z that my primary is recommending. Can we talk about that? And sometimes I agree with their primary, but there might be alternatives that the system isn't aware of or things that we can offer. I do also, obviously the homeopathics is a big piece, but I kind of weave that into the treatment that we utilize. We do some bioidentical hormones. And again, that's more individually based. Mold is something we really focus on, especially with some of our kiddos. Treatment of pandas we talked about, peptides. We do IV therapy, both nutrient as well as the lights, which are probably going to be our most popular treatment. They're amazing. We have ozone therapy. What else? Kate, our practice manager, does manual lymphatic drainage massages. And also biofeedback, which is like a counselor in a computer. So you talk about something that bothers you, hand on a cradle, it plays back music and changes your response to that. It's a fascinating.
Well, that's interesting.
It's very cool. That is
so cool.
Very effective for some people with a lot of stress or things that are kind of ruminating. I do the nutritional piece. Just that's part of seeing me.
I mean,
part of integrated into everything.
Part of the foundations, right?
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. You just listed off a million things. So you are just, if I wish I could just take all the knowledge from your brain and put it right in my mind.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds like so amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Your website again, one more time for this final episode.
www.gmofwi.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode, would you consider leaving a rating or review or sharing it directly with a friend who could benefit from the information? We know that you're a busy mom or caregiver, and our goal is to make your life easier by bringing tips and tricks directly from experts into your earbuds. By sharing this episode with someone you love, you can play a critical role in helping to make their life easier as well. We appreciate your time, and thank you for being a part of the Motherhood Alliance family.